If you decide to become a wrestler, you're likely going to get injured. I know it's a very negative Nancy thing to say, but it's so physical and risky the chances are through the roof. You'd have to be made of metal not to. Even then, look at Optimus Prime. He used to shut down. You can't win. Thankfully, most of these can be dealt with, but others are not so lucky, and therefore let's pay respect to such performers as we look at horrifying injuries that changed wrestlers forever. Number 10, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I ain't even have my fucking microphone up the whole time. Oh well. Y'all just gonna have to deal with the first couple of minutes of me going through this. But yeah, my bad. I forgot to turn my mic up, man. I just got through doing some gameplay, so forgot to turn my mic up. My bad.
In many ways, the severe injury Stone Cold suffered proved just how good he was at wrestling. I mean, this man was dropped on his neck for real, shattered the damn thing, when he rethought his entire style and still conquered the industry. That is an incredible tale. We all know about this one too because it's become so infamous. Happening at SummerSlam 1997, Owen Hart gave Steve a horrible pile driver that couldn't have gone more wrong. The replays will send shivers through your soul. Somehow Austin still surprised roll-up Owen for the win, even if it is the weakest pin of all time. And the 3 months the Rattlesnake was away from the ring would be life-changing. It's also important to note that within weeks he was back hitting stunners, which was questionable. But again, he went from technician to brawler and tied it all into his character to the point nobody really noticed. This was a genius at work.
Yeah.
Number 9, Tyson Kidd.
Oh yeah,
Sadly,
I forgot about Tyson Kidd.
Everyone is so lucky.
I forgot about Tyson Kidd.
Tyson Kidd is super respected for what he did in the ring, but also how good he is as an agent backstage. Many a top match have come from his brain, and he's wildly credited as having a huge influence on the women's division. People love this guy. It wasn't going so well in June 2015, however. He faced Samoa Joe, and it all went bad. Happening during a dark match of all things, he was tasked with welcoming Joe to the WWE, who had recently signed. Everything was going fine until Samoa hit a routine muscle buster when it was clear that Kidd was injured. As it turned out, Tyson had suffered a horrible spinal injury which doctors said could have paralyzed him. I mean, that's terrifying. He was only 35 years old and forced into retirement, and I can't even imagine how hard that must be. This dude has totally smashed it though. He moved on and continued to fly. I hope nothing but the best for old Tyson Kidd. Number 8, Joey Mercury. So I saw this live and yeah, instantly you knew it was really bad.
Y'all can watch the video, I just gotta do one little thing. Hold on, y'all. Hold on.
Tag team Eminem. We saw them compete in a ladder match at Armageddon 2006. Obviously, you can't control what a flipping ladder is going to do. So when Jeff Hardy used one as a seesaw, the other end went right into Joey's face and destroyed it. This was a flipping mess. The blood that flowed from his nose proved that, and the amount of care Mercury gave to this was crazy. As the man himself admitted, it was so harsh his dependence on certain medication got worse. It sort of sent him into a spiral. It saw him come and go from WWE as he tried to balance out, before thankfully, he settled into that role as a henchman for both CM Punk and Seth Rollins. That was over a 7-year period, so he found his way. But if you have not seen this, I would say approach with caution.
Yeah.
It was basically like getting shot in the face with a flipping shot.
Shout out to Jerry Mercury, man.
Sid Vicious. Another injury that's sadly way too well known. This was horrible and basically ended Sid's career. The big question at the time was why a man this size was doing anything off the ropes, especially because that had never been part of his offense. As it turned out, WCW officials had told Justice to do it. I mean, come on. Happening in 2001 at the Sim pay-per-view, which just summed up the company at the time, Sid went to do something off the turnbuckle when he landed horrendously on his leg, which quite literally exploded.
My God.
Once again, you can go and see this footage, and it bends the wrong way. He needed a bunch of surgeries to get this right, and the fallout was so severe, he only wrestled another 24 matches over the following 16 years. That's why it's nice this guy was into softball. Gave him a good distraction. Once again, I shall warn you, if you do seek this out though, it will totally get to you. Number 6, Brian Pillman. So this completely changed the direction of Brian Pillman's career. Underlines what a star he was in 1996, because even after suffering horrific wounds, the WWF still wanted to sign him. They knew what he could bring even at 50%. It didn't even happen in the ring, it was actually outside of the squared circle, as Bryan was involved in a car crash so bad, doctors didn't think he'd ever walk again. He proved them wrong through sheer force of will, but as the early 90s were a time when out of sight definitely meant out of mind, Pillman came back way too early and never let this properly heal. Sometimes you could even see the pain etched onto his face. He stayed involved in commentary and of course part of the Heart Foundation, but after multiple surgeries with no real relief, frustration set in, because Pillman just couldn't do what he wanted to. By 1997, the wear and tear along with alcohol and drug addictions became too much, and he sadly passed away before the Bad Blood pay-per-view. This story is so tragic, not least because Brian Pillman was way ahead of the game. Number 5, Ric Flair. In 1975, Ric Flair survived a plane crash. Yep. How mad is that?
That's
he was
crazy.
lucky to walk away from it too, it was so bad, and if you were aware of his work pre all this, afterwards you could see how it affected him. I mean, he broke his back in 3 places for goodness sake, and yet somehow returned to wrestling just 6 months later. I mean, how? A big reason he was able to do this was shifting how he bumped, however, because he no longer relied solely on his back. As I'm sure you've seen, he started landing more on his side to try and avoid this damage, and it's sort of just stuck. You will notice it the most when somebody catches him trying to come off the top and getting slammed instead, and maybe that's also why he started doing the Flair flop. I mean, that was just falling right on his face. Must have given his back a nice break. Never forget too that the Nature Boy went on to become one of the best wrestlers ever after this.
Yep.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Number 4, Paige. Right now, Paige, or Saraya, is the AEW Women's Champion, and that's awesome. Why? Because at one point she was told to never wrestle again. Having made it to the WWE main roster at just 22 years old, the future seems super bright. Yet within 2 years, injuries struck. She took a bad blow to the neck which kept her out of action, something that very sadly would return in 2017. Part of the Absolution group, along with Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, Paige lasted just 7 matches when her neck totally gave out, and yeah, she was told she had to retire. This is why she became a general manager at WrestleMania 34, while it did take her out of the game. Inspired by many other people, she sought treatment, and doctors gave her the big thumbs up to return in 2022. She did that with AEW, people went crazy, and I love these stories. Never give in. Number 3, Shawn Michaels. Surely one of the most famous of these tales, Shawn Michaels was done after losing his WWF title to Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14. His back was so bad he could barely get out of bed, and the amount of surgeries he was going to need to write this meant the writing was on the wall. You can see him suffer this at the 1998 Royal Rumble when The Undertaker throws HBK onto an open casket, and how he even battled through the next few months I don't know. Everybody said he was just a mess. It did oddly help push Austin into the next stratosphere, and is why when Michaels returned in 2002, nobody believed this could be true. We'd all been told he was totally done. Somehow he even got better for round 2, so I guess that sums it up. You don't get called the best ever by fluke. Shawn Michaels was just one of a kind.
Yep.
Number 2, Nikki Bella. We do not talk about Nikki Bella's in-ring career enough. Not only did her and Brie use Total Divas to greatly increase WWE's female viewership, she also served as somewhat of a gatekeeper as the company moved away from Divas into the women's wrestling era, and Nikki upped her game so much, she actually paid the price. Suffering an awful neck injury while in the ring meant she had to have super serious surgery to fix it, and yet she still returned in 2016. Back then, she had a very underrated feud with Carmella, but you could just see that Nikki was a very different performer than she had been before. I mean, she was even forced to change her finish. It's also the reason ultimately she had to walk away from the sport, so yeah. Let's put some more damn respect on her name. She did pretty damn good. Number 1, CM Punk. It is a very sliding doors moment, to say the least. New AEW World Champion CM Punk was so happy to be back in wrestling, he dove into the crowd and shattered his foot. I mean, this was a total freak accident. He had to miss an entire summer, and yeah, when he did return, it felt like he had a very different energy, mostly because the wheels fell off. I mean, remember when he called out Hangman Adam Page when he wasn't meant to call out Hangman Adam Page? Yeah. That. We then got that squash match loss to Jon Moxley on Dynamite, which CM Punk didn't seem all that into, and when he got hurt again at Double or Nothing, we got that press conference, and the rest, as they say, is history. So it shall always be a question what would have happened had Punk not suffered through all this. However, we can't change the past, so let's just hope everybody is far happier now, That really is what matters. Know of any other horrifying injuries that changed wrestlers forever? Make sure you shout them out in the comments below, because let's face it, they have given us so much, and they deserve our respect. You can also like this video, share this video, and subscribe before heading over to whatculture.com to read up on the latest wrestling.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't put Big E on this list. I'm surprised Big E's not on this list. They put CM Punk on this list, but they didn't put Big E on this list, who is currently out injured. We don't know if it's indefinite. We don't know we just don't know, man. I would love to see Big E back in action, man. He was at the top of the food chain before he was pretty much taken out of the game pretty much. But yeah, hopefully Big E can make a big return. I really don't give two shits about CM Punk. I don't know why y'all getting so hype about CM Punk, bro. Like, what do y'all see in CM Punk that just says, I like this guy? Like, bro, this nigga is clearly an asshole. I don't get what people see as CM Punk. He's clearly an asshole. He did this in WWE. He bitched him on his way out of AEW. Now everybody's thinking he's going to come back to the WWE with open arms after all the bullshit that he... No. I hope he don't come back. Because if he do come back, then that just make the WWE look pussy. But anyway, so that's just going to about do it for this one. I'll see you all in the next video. Till then, peace out.